Welcome, everybody, to the Sentinel Report. I am your host, Alex Newman. It's a great honor and a privilege to be with you today on this beautiful day that the Lord has made. We're recording on March 10th of 2025, and we've got an incredible show for you today. Some really, really special guests. Sam Anthony, who's about to smoke the lying mainstream fake newspaper media. And we've also got Maxime Bernier, who's former Minister of Foreign Affairs, kind of like a Secretary of State for Canada, now started his own party, and he's about to become, it looks like, the kingmaker in Canadian politics. He joins us today to break down the resignation of Justin Trudeau and the new Prime Minister, Mark Carney. Very interesting fellow. And also, we'll talk to him about the 51st state. And you probably heard a lot about South Africa recently for good reason. Donald Trump is finally addressing this issue. We've got a very special guest, Phumlani Majozi, joining us. He is rated one of the most influential young South Africans. He's got a different take than the government. And so you're going to be blessed by hearing from him. But first, a word from the Word. This comes out of Romans chapter 8, verses 35 through 37. The Bible reads, "Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall tribulation or distress or persecution or famine or nakedness or danger or sword? As it is written, for your sake we are being killed all the day long. We are regarded as sheep to be slaughtered. No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us." Amen, 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 folks. When your hope is not in this world, amazing things happen. Okay. Now, let's go to the news, folks. We've got a lot of really, really important news. We've been giving you updates about what's going on in Romania. Hugely significant, even though the fake media in America is not covering it. We actually brought on Romania's most popular politician just recently to discuss the detaining of the front-running presidential candidate, Călin Georgescu. He actually won the first round of the presidential election. Well, now, unbelievable, he has actually been barred from running in the next election, which is exactly what we predicted would happen, right? A guy running on a platform of stopping the deep state, protecting national sovereignty, protecting the family, no World War III. Oh, he must be a Putin puppet. Can't have that. So he has now been removed from the election by this clown court in Romania. He reacted over the weekend by calling it a direct blow to the heart of democracy worldwide. He said Europe is now a dictatorship. Romania is under tyranny. We agree, as it happens. Now, Justin Trudeau, as I mentioned, former Prime Minister of Canada, is now the former Prime Minister of Canada. He's being replaced by Mark Carney, a central banker, climate alarmist, former head of the Bank of England, which is the central bank of the UK, and also of the Bank of Canada. Here he is parroting some of the UN's climate propaganda, give you some insight into where his administration will go if he wins the upcoming election. Check this out.
Skepticism about ESG labels or sustainable labels. And it, again, is one of the reasons we're having this ruthless, relentless focus on net zero, because in the end, look, we can't stabilize the climate unless we get to net zero. And it's a simple, these are hard numbers. Your emissions are either A or B, they're going up or down. And if they're going down, are they going down consistent with the science? We anchor it in the science, the same science the UN and others use for the 1.5 degree objectives.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that resonates with Canadian voters who are, by the way, struggling to pay their bills, can't pay their mortgages, gasoline, food going through the roof. We'll see how that goes with voters. We shall see. Now, over the weekend, President Trump blamed the climate propagandists for pushing climate nonsense when the United States ought to be focused on avoiding a nuclear war. You think? Check it out.
You know, when I listen to these climate lunatics and they talk about global warming, and they say the ocean's going to rise 1/8 of an inch in the next 300 years, and and nobody ever talks about nuclear weapons or some of the other things, but the nuclear weapons in particular right now. And they talk about the climate, and they talk about the dangers of the climate, but they don't talk about the dangers of a nuclear weapon, which could happen tomorrow. They say in 300 years. I watched Biden for years say the existential threat. He loved the term existential threat. Our greatest existential threat is from the climate. I said, no. Well, the greatest is sitting in shelves in various countries called nuclear weapons that are big monsters that can blow your heads off for miles and miles and miles. And they never mention that.
Yeah. Well, we've been mentioning it here on this show. And frankly, I'm a little bit concerned about what's going on, right? Trump drew a pretty clear red line. He told Putin, quit bombing stuff in Ukraine, please, while we try to negotiate some peace. And not only did Putin keep bombing, he then followed up with second strike bombs to blow up the first responders who went to these targets. It's almost like somebody wants a World War III. Who would possibly want a World War III? Oh, yeah, the same globalists who always want war, always and everywhere, because it enriches them, impoverishes you, takes away your freedom, kills a bunch of people, and, as the State Department outlined in a 1962 report, puts us closer to a one world government. So thank you to Donald Trump for trying to diffuse that threat. But over in Europe, the clown car marches on. We've got Ursula von der Leyen, who styles herself the president of Europe, talking about we're preparing for war. World War III, here we come. Check it out.
In the various meetings in the last few weeks, most recently 2 days ago in London, the answer from European capitals has been as resounding as it is clear. We are in an era of rearmament. And Europe is ready to massively boost its defense spending, both to respond to the short-term urgency to act and to support Ukraine, but also to address the long-term need to take on more responsibility for our own European security. And this is why today I have written a letter to the leaders ahead of Thursday's European Council. This is why we are here together today. I have outlined in this letter to the leaders the Rearm Europe plan. This set of proposals focuses on how to use all the financial levers at our disposal in order to help member states to quickly and significantly increase expenditures in defense capabilities, urgently now, but also over a longer period of time over this decade.
Yeah, if you've seen any of those videos of the various European militaries running around in tutus with a rainbow and celebrating their pride, yeah, it might be a good idea, Miss von der Leyen. Europe is in big trouble, folks. If the U.S. government chooses not to defend them, they're in big trouble. They better get busy. Now, Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense here in the United States, said that the United States is prepared for war or anything else in case the Communist Chinese decide to retaliate violently against the tariffs being imposed by Donald Trump. Actually, in response to those tariffs, China's Foreign Affairs Ministry said if war is what the U.S. wants, be it a tariff war, a trade war, or any other type of war, we're ready to fight it till the end. So Pete Hegseth actually said that the United States is, in fact, prepared to go to war if necessary. He said, well, we're prepared. Those who long for peace must prepare for war. If we want to deter war with the Chinese or others, we have to have a strong military. The president understands that peace comes through strength. And, of course, we agree. Now, turning to another war zone where the Biden administration and the deep state made a catastrophic mess, the CIA's violent jihadist allies in Syria, masquerading as moderate rebels, just reportedly slaughtered hundreds, if not thousands, of minorities in that country, including some Christians, including Alawites, who are a minority sect of Muslims within Syria. Actually, the former dictator Bashar al-Assad was a member of that minority sect. And, of course, we here have been exposing these atrocities against Christians and minorities by the CIA's violent jihadist rebels from the very beginning. And, of course, the U.S. government was supporting him at every step of the way. Now, Donald Trump actually hit the nail on the head. I don't like Assad. He's a dictator. He was a dictator. He left now. But Donald Trump had a really incisive comment from 2015. I just want to share with you a little flashback here.
So I've watched Assad, and I've watched a little bit on the other side. The problem is the other side of Assad, we have no idea who they are. They probably are ISIS. I'm saying, are we better off with Assad? We have no idea who these people are. We give them weapons, we give them ammunition, we give them everything. Aaron, we have no idea who. I mean, maybe it's worse than Assad. So what are we doing? Why are we involved? We have to get rid of ISIS, very importantly. But I look at Assad, and Assad to me looks better than the other side. And, you know, this has happened before. We back a certain side, and that side turns out to be a total catastrophe. Russia likes Assad seemingly a lot. Let them worry about ISIS. Let them fight it out.
Yeah, you'd think that'd be clever. But no. Obama, Biden, the Sunni dictators of the Arabian Peninsula all said, no, let's give weapons to ISIS, right? And they were warned about this, by the way, folks. General Flynn, when he was the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, put together a memo and explained exactly what was going on. The U.S. government, the Turks, the Arabs were supporting the rebellion in Syria. They knew it was led by al-Qaeda in Iraq and the Muslim Brotherhood, and they wanted a Salafist principality in Syria. That's what they got. It's called ISIS, the Islamic State. And now, of course, these maniacs have taken over the country with your weapons and your money, and Christians are paying the price, as they always do. It's terrible, folks. Turning back to domestic news, the U.S. House is considering legislation to abolish the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, which, as far as I'm concerned, really ought to be a convenience store rather than a government agency. So the bill was introduced by Representative Lauren Boebert of Colorado and Eric Burlinson of Missouri. And if approved, it would abolish the ATF, saying the ATF is hereby abolished. It's HR 221. They've got 27 co-sponsors. And folks, it's interesting that this is happening now because I've had 2 phone calls over the last few weeks from people who I know or people who know people who I know who have been abused by the ATF. They've been raided. One of them had all his stuff seized, including his cash, his weapons, and they didn't even charge him with a crime after all this investigation, but they said, yeah, we're not giving you your stuff back. Okay. Another one was told by the ATF, hey, you plead guilty and we'll let you off easy. Well, he pled guilty even though he knew he wasn't guilty. Now he's facing 30 months in prison. Is going to destroy his family. These people are out of control, folks. So I think this is a very good bill. Congress ought not be involved in these things in the first place. So why do we have an ATF, right? This is not a proper responsibility of the federal government. Our states can handle this perfectly adequately. Now, weird video by Democrats, all the top Democrats posting the same weird video blasting Trump and cussing. It's a compilation brought to you by Right Angle News. Check it out.
I win, I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
Yeah, obviously some propagandist, some Democrat hack wrote the script for him, gave him the same videos, the same talking points, and they all look goofy as can be. So, folks, pretty incredible, but this is what our political process has now seemingly devolved to. Yeah, let's not clap for kids with cancer. Yeah, truly amazing. Now, we've got a disgusting tax-funded LGBT Mardi Gras Pride Parade Festival in Australia featuring an Aboriginal man spearing a guy dressed up like Jesus. Now, for some context here, you see the image on your screen if you're listening or if you're watching us. If you're just listening to us on the radio or something, it's a guy dressed like Jesus being speared by an Australian Aborigine. This is an event that receives millions of tax dollars in Australia every year. The CCP-friendly Prime Minister Anthony Albanese actually walked in this disgusting parade alongside his partner Jody. And if this were any other religion, right? If that were Muhammad, if that were some Hindu character, this would be hate speech. Everybody would be arrested. It would be out of control. And so the Australian Christian lobby is now calling for this disgusting event to be defunded, saying taxpayers should not be forced to fund an event that promotes debauchery, sexual fetishes, and now religious mockery and blasphemy. Folks, our friends in Australia need prayer. In fact, one of our viewers from Australia, one of our supporters here, sent us a note and said this: Christians down here will surely covet the prayers of our U.S. brethren. So, folks, let's join our Christian brothers and sisters in Australia and pray for their nation and pray that this kind of evil would stop. Now, Minnesota has declared a state of emergency. There's an outbreak of 3 diseases, a trifecta of diseases, as they're calling it. Avian metapneumovirus is a respiratory disease that targets poultry. There's the highly pathogenic avian influenza, and then there's the H5N1 bird flu. So all these are making their way through Minnesota, and we'll bring you updates as we have them. Also, folks, New Jersey's first Islamic city. It's called Paterson, New Jersey. We've got a bunch of Muslim politicians, Muslim mayor, Muslim deputy mayor, a bunch of Muslims on the county commission. And now they're renaming Main Street is now called Palestinian Way. They're raising Islamic flags, advancing Sharia. The Rare Foundation has a very, very good article exposing some of this. The councilman says, because of our unity, we have 3 Muslim council members on the council at the same time. And because of our unity, one of our brothers, who is the councilman of the 6th Ward, is now representing us in the 35th Legislative District. During this event that they just had, Mayor Sayegh, a Muslim, said Paterson is the capital of Palestine in the United States of America. Paterson is the 4th holiest city in the world, he said, after Jerusalem, Mecca, and Medina. Folks, this is pretty amazing. Okay, this is happening in New Jersey, not the Middle East. Okay, all this is going on right under our noses. Folks, I do want to encourage you before we go to break to check out our friends over at Classical Conversations, and also check out our sponsors at qpgoatsoap.com. Folks, get over to qpgoatsoap.com, qpgoatsoap.com, and use the promo code Newman. You're going to get a nice discount on some of the greatest soap out there. It's homemade on a family farm, made from natural ingredients. It's all we use now in my house. My wife, my kids, I actually take it with me when I'm out on the road speaking, because I don't want to use the nasty, toxic soap hotels. So folks, go check it out, qpgoatsoap.com, and stay with us. We're going to be right back after this quick break.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Welcome back to the Sentinel Report. Alex Newman, your host here. Folks, thanks for staying with us over the break. We have a very special guest joining us today. He has become a friend, and I'm actually working with him now because he has an idea that's going to revolutionize the news media industry. You tired of your local propaganda rag lying to you and paying for the privilege of being lied to? Well, Sam is the man with a plan to knock it all down. Sam Anthony is the founder of yournews.com. He's got over 2 decades of experience in the online media industry, and he is motivated by his idea that the internet is going to revolutionize traditional media and eventually usher in a more vibrant and adaptable media landscape. He has an incredible new technology, and I'm very happy to work with him. But Sam, it's great to have you with us today. Thanks so much. I want to start with what's going on with Trump. He just gave, of course, this historic speech to Congress. Democrats really looked like petulant children. I don't know whose idea it was not to clap for the little kid with brain cancer, but what are you seeing? I mean, you've got a lot of journalists now that are writing for Your News. What kind of response is being generated from this very bizarre spectacle?
Well, first of all, Alex, good to be here, man. Good to be on your show.
Thanks,
so, from the journalist side, I mean, the people that we're bringing on, that's not their focus. Their focus is really on putting out local news, which is what they're doing. I told you the CNN, I think, laid off 200 people. What was it, a week or two ago? Probably 2 weeks ago. And, we've picked up 270, I think, in the last few months. I mean, so we've been expanding and growing, but the focus of our platform is not really the national news. It's really the community news that mattered to people most. So that's what their focus is.
Yeah. Well, and now, obviously, because of Trump, we have found out that a lot of the big media outlets, a lot of the big legacy outlets were feasting at the taxpayer trough. We've got New York Times, Reuters, Politico, you name it, consuming large amounts of tax dollars, a lot of it coming through USAID and other places. What do you make of that? Why tax money for far left media?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because, we've been saying, how could these people be lying like this? I mean, you can't be that dumb. The only way it could happen is if somebody's actually paying you to say this stuff. And then if we find out that they've been getting money, did you see $260 million went to like 6,000 journalists, right? I don't know where, but here's my point. It was a conspiracy when we said it. Now we already know they're getting paid for it. So they've just, in terms of relevance, they're even less relevant today. So, now we know why they're doing it. It's because they're getting paid, and not for nothing. I'm in the digital media space. There's the Chicago Tribune can't survive with their website, and these people have billions of dollars. None of them can. And all of a sudden, Politico got $37 million last year. So they wouldn't have got a nickel if it wasn't for the Biden administration. So it's all propped up propaganda is all it is.
Yeah, it sure seems like it. And then you've got the algorithms of the big tech companies steering you to the propaganda. It's really quite incredible. There's another poll that was just released, and frankly, I find this shocking, Sam. I want to get your take, but Gallup just released a poll, and they were trying to gauge the trust that Americans have in the mass media. And this was shocking to me. 31% of Americans still have either a great deal or at least a fair amount of trust in the fake media, which means, of course, 2/3 of Americans don't really trust the media. But where are these people coming from? This 1/3 or a little bit less than 1/3 that still trust the media. I mean, how can that be? Do they live under a rock? Do they get paid by USAID? What's going on here?
You still have a large portion of the population that are watching the mainstream media. My neighbors are in their lower 80s. I think they're 83 years old, and they've been watching Fox and CNN, or not Fox, but CNN, ABC, NBC for 50 years. So this is what they've come to trust, and they believe these people. That's the problem. And so until I always say it, the legacy media is obviously not going to survive. That's why everybody calls it the legacy media, including themselves. But there's still going to be an audience, but ultimately all that stuff's going to go away, and it's going to go away relatively quickly. Number one, they just pulled the plug on all their money coming from the federal government. Number two, if RFK Jr. does what he says he wants to do, and he gets rid of pharmaceutical advertising on radio and on TV, the whole system's it's a house of cards. It's coming down because that's the bulk of their money.
Yep. And we're seeing that with the local press too. I mean, I can't tell you how many of the opinion molders, the influential people, even the elected officials here in this community despise our local propaganda outlet owned by Gannett, the big newspaper chain. And I know they are desperate for subscribers. I mean, the people are just begging, like, free subscription, whatever, just read our garbage paper. They literally throw it on our driveway, even though we don't subscribe to it. Now, you have a platform, yournews.com, and I just joined as an advisor there. I think what you have is revolutionary, Sam. I think it's going to completely upend the media landscape because you're bringing local news to people. You're connecting advertisers right with the people they want to connect with, right down to like their zip code, to their town. Talk a little bit about your platform, yournews.com, and what you think it's going to do to the industry.
What we do will become the next mainstream media. That is 100%, Alex, 100%. Now, if I were to stop what I'm doing, somebody would fill this void. Remember, I showed you on LinkedIn, there's almost 500,000 people that call themselves freelance journalists. Well, freelance journalists means they're looking for work. Most of them are part of the downsizing of the legacy media. There's almost 200,000 student journalists on LinkedIn. And Alex, students aren't really on LinkedIn. I mean, this is more for the business community, and these are kids in school. But where are these kids going to get a job when they get out of school, Alex? I mean, do you really think that MSNBC, CNN, ABC, NBC, any local papers are going to be hiring in the next 24 to 48 months? No, none of them are. So our focus right now is bringing on the student journalists because, number one, they weren't part of the problem. Number two, who knows the internet better than the younger generation because this is their era. And number three, they're going to have a place to be able to write local news, to be able to replace the legacy media because, they know the local community better than everybody else. So they're going to end up becoming, or what we do will be the next mainstream media, but they're going to be the next local news people, because here's what I found. There's never been a paradigm in history where the old guard was part of the new one, right? Like nobody from the telegraph ever went to the telephone. Nobody from the, from the horse and buggy business went and was part of the automobile business. It works the same like this. The old guard of the news industry, they're not going to be able to go to new media. It's just not what they do. So it's going to be a different generation coming on board. And we call them citizen journalists, and not for nothing. Alex, you have literally 100 million people on YouTube that are broadcasters to some degree. Some people have a cooking show. Some people have a golf show. Somebody have a political show. Some people have a food and wine show. It's whatever you want. And the technology exists today where you could actually have your own show. And even if you've never been in broadcast media before, so what our technology allows is for people that have never been in the news business to become local news reporters. So you could take somebody that's an out of work, somebody that's goes to the city council meetings or the school board meetings, has kids in school, proactive in the community, and that person could become the next news reporter in their community and post news.
Yeah, and it's already happening. I mean, if I understand correctly, you had over 100 million hits on the website last year, and you're just getting this thing started. Talk a little bit in the last few minutes that we have left for today, Sam, and I'm going to bring you back as a regular guest. This is so important. I think you are on the cutting edge of something unbelievably significant. But talk a little bit about the business model, the way the advertising works, and the way local pizza shop can connect with the guys in his town rather than having to buy ads and hit a bunch of people who are not going to be within his area.
So this model is not a new model. Okay, for your audience, news organizations are aggregators of information. So the way the media business works is people that have news will send a press release to the media. So if you're a nonprofit, you're having an event, somebody at the nonprofit sends a press release to the radio, TV, and print in that market. The news organizations aggregate that information. They decide what they're going to air or publish. So what we are is an aggregator of the identical content. We just have the ability to print it all because there's no cost, and we can organize it by subject and geography. All news is either city, county, market, state, regional, or national. So somebody's Little League game is sports news for a city. The high school football game is sports news for the market. The Monday Night Football game is sports news national. We can distribute content based on geographical relevance, as granular as one city or as broad as nationwide and everywhere in between. So the way our model works is we take people that want to become local news reporters. It could be a student journalist that just graduated school, can't find a job. They come on board and they write a story about the high school football game anywhere in America. We publish that content to the sports section in that market. What they do is they share that on their social media pages to their followers. When their followers click the link, they consume the content hosted on our site, and then we sell the ads, and the advertisers can target their ads around the content that's relevant to their product, as granular as one zip code, Alex. So just think of it this way. Any local news website, everybody's been to one. You go to a sports page, there's X amount of space for people to buy ads on that page. So let's say it's 10 ads. So if they can put 10 ads on their sports page, we can do 10 ads on our sports page in one zip code. It's like having 70,000 different editions. And advertisers target based on the highest bid. So the hyper local guy is always going to trump the city. I'm talking zip codes. Who's always going to trump the city, the county, the market, or state, regional, or national.
Sam, we're gonna have to bring you back to discuss this in more depth. We're out of time in this segment. This is so huge and so significant. When you first explained this to me, I said, "Wow, this guy is sitting on like the next big thing in the news media." You're gonna roll up all the local newspapers across the country. Before we let you go, Sam, real quick, tell people how they can go to your news. I mean, you've got the app, you got the website. How do people get involved? And then, of course, Nico Ventures. If people are interested in investing, how do people connect? Real quick.
Sure. You could go to the site from your desktop. It's yournews.com. You could go to your phone and you type it in, and there's a download button. We control it. At the bottom of the page, if you want to become a journalist, if you want to be the one reporting the local news in your community, if you go to pull it down to the bottom, Alex, you'll see something that says, it'll say right there, be a citizen journalist. You would click that. There's an application in there. You fill out the application. And once you get approved, you'll get an email with instructions on how to use your dashboard. The second piece is the invest part, which is at the bottom of the page there, where if somebody wants to buy stock in the company, we're doing an offering. We're not selling to institutional players. All of this is being funded by we the people. Like I said, the reason we're in the mess we're in today is because 6 companies control the legacy media. I don't want that to be the case here. What I want is to distribute this product to we the people. So it's actually funded by the people.
Yeah. And Sam, I'm really grateful for what you're doing. It's so long overdue. The media has just been lying to people for so long. I think one of the big reasons we're in the mess that we're in as a country right now is because of the propaganda. So really grateful for what you're doing, Sam. Really grateful that you could join us today. We will definitely get you back very soon. Thank you once again for coming on the program, and we'll catch you very soon.
You got it, Alex. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much. Folks, go check it out, yournews.com, yournews.com. A lot of my stuff is going up there now, and I intend to work very closely with these guys in the years to come because they are sitting on, I think, the next big thing. Stay with us. We're going to be right back with a guest from South Africa, folks. It's been in the news a lot. Donald Trump is a little bit upset about what's happening to the farmers down there. Our next guest is going to break it down for us, explain what's really going on. Stay tuned.
In 1776, a nation was born. Forged in the crucible of revolution, brave men and women stood together fighting for freedom, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. Introducing Patriot Mobile, the wireless carrier that stands with you. We are committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile. For free activation, use promo code Newman.
Welcome back to the Sentinel Report. Thanks so much for staying with us, folks. Obviously, South Africa's been in the news a lot these last few weeks. Donald Trump has just issued some very, very significant orders. It's not a surprise to me. I used to live in South Africa. I love South Africa. I love the peoples of South Africa. And I'm very passionate about this issue. I've been writing about some of what's going on down there for well over a decade. But most Americans were caught by surprise here. People had really little idea about what was happening down there. And so I thought we got to bring somebody on to break this down for the folks so they can understand what's happening. And Phumlani Majozi, he is an economist, a speaker. He's the author of a book called Lessons from Past Heroes. He's got a lot of experience with international investors on South Africa's financial markets. His writings have appeared all over the place, all the major publications in South Africa. He's been quoted by the media around the world. And he does a lot of good work. He's got a deep understanding of all this stuff. Phumlani, welcome to the program. Really appreciate you coming on. So for the folks in America who really are clueless about what's happening in South Africa, this expropriation without compensation, it's a big deal. And I think a lot of Americans are surprised. Like, I thought South Africa was a free country now. What's going on? What's happening for the folks who don't understand yet what is going on?
Wow, Alex, it's great to be here, man, to be here to talk to you. Yes, this expropriation of land without compensation, it's something that has been quite concerning, especially for people like us who care about, private property rights, stability, because all those things, you do need them for a stronger economy. Now, to give you context, when it comes to this thing of land, over the past, I would say, a decade and a half, there has been this noise by the far, well, I would say the far left-wing people, the left and the far left, they have been making this noise that the reason why we have these inequalities we have, the big contributor is that, Black people don't have access to land. They lack land, right? And as part of that argument over the past decade and a half, they have been beating a drum about expropriation of land without compensation. In other words, we should adjust the constitution to allow for the government to expropriate land without compensation, right? So after all these noises they've been making, or they've been making over the past 10, 15 years or so, this thing, they put it through the parliament, and then there was a bill that passed. They voted for the adjustment of the laws, so that they allow for expropriation without compensation. So the bill was on the table for a long time after it was approved by the government, and then just a few months back, our president Ramaphosa, he signed it into law, right? Because remember, the bill has to be approved by the government, and then the president is the guy who's going to finalize the whole thing and sign it into law. So, and then the president did sign it into law. So it's been quite concerning, because remember, Alex, that the context here is that for about 15 years now, we have had politicians from the left and far left who have been saying we need expropriation, of land without compensation, because we have white people who still control the majority of the land, which is not true, by the way, according to the statistics. So that context is very important, because now, after all these years, you are now putting a law that says that you can expropriate without compensation, which you didn't have before. Now you put this thing through. So there's an agenda here. And by the way, Alex, we already have too many laws, right, that address the issues of land. We already have too many, at least 15 or so, right, of these laws. Now they add more again. What's the point here?
Yeah. And there's another issue that's related to that. They call it the Black Economic Empowerment, where companies are required to hire X number of people based on skin color and things like this. And so I think when Trump talked about letting the Afrikaners come to the United States, it took a lot of Americans by surprise. Our media, as you probably know, doesn't talk all that much about South Africa anymore. But give us some background. What is going on down there? Why would Trump see that as important? And of course, now he has even cut off federal funding to South Africa. And I understand now the ANC is very unhappy with this. In fact, I've heard the word treason thrown out in regards to some of the Afrikaner folks who've come to the United States to try to make noise about these things. What's going on with all this, Phumlani?
Yeah. So let's start with Black economic empowerment, Alex. So Black economic empowerment was, now it's called, it first started in the second half of the 1990s, right? It started as Black economic empowerment, and then they changed it later, adjusted the law into broad-based Black economic empowerment. But I'm going to call it Black economic empowerment. All this thing is, it was founded, or it was established in the second half of the 1990s. It's race-based policies, right? That's what it is. In other words, it's saying to companies, to corporates, right? It says when it comes to management, you need to try and achieve, or you should achieve X when it comes to putting Black people. When it comes to certain areas of work, you need to have, you need to demonstrate or to show to government that you are complying with these laws, that you are putting in Black people in certain positions, right? In other words, private companies and businesses, they are being forced by this law, Black economic empowerment law, to do, to employ people, or to promote, or to, how they manage their businesses. It must be done according to these race-based laws. In other words, you need to have certain, according to the skin color. Now, this has been concerning, because what we have seen, Alex, is that over the years, we have seen this frustration amongst the white population, which is a minority in the country. It accounts for less than 8%, Alex, just less than 8%. Yet it is seen, yet there is this idea that somehow these people are controlling the economy. We need to put in the laws so that we push for Black people to go upward in the corporate world. It hasn't been really helpful, right? So this law has been really put forward to try and, at least in their argument, to adjust, to pressure companies to employ according to race. And guess what? It hasn't really worked, because when you look at even the inequality, in fact, inequality has risen in South Africa over the past 30 years, which is very much interesting. And also, second thing, the biggest inequality now, Alex, is no longer between Blacks and whites in South Africa. The biggest inequality is between Blacks themselves, amongst the Black people, right? So you have this big elite class of Black people that has been created by these laws, who have been benefiting from this BE, Black economic empowerment. At the bottom, the majority of Black people, they've really struggled. They haven't gone, forward much. So you have this gap now that has been created by Black economic empowerment. So it has been an sort of a counterproductive policy. Even Elon Musk cannot come through to invest here because of these race-based policies. We've had Aliko Dangote, the billionaire of Nigeria, himself has complained before about this Black economic empowerment, that it makes it hard to invest in South Africa. So it's a concerning policy, and I think I have seen it as something that is not necessary, because we can do a lot of things to create opportunities in the country, but it has to be for everybody, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be race-based.
Yep. And so what's been the response to these orders and these statements by Donald Trump? I know recently Elon Musk made some comments as well. What's been the response in South Africa in terms of the public and also in terms of the ANC and its partners in government?
Oh, when it comes to the response, there has been, well, I'm on social media, Alex, so I do watch, there has been a huge sort of outrage by many people who are saying we are a sovereign country. We can do whatever we want, right? So we cannot be told by Mr. Donald Trump, the US president, as to what kind of policies we should pursue. I've been watching the ANC leaders. They keep on saying, we will not be told what to do. We are going to continue with race-based policy. In his recent State of the Nation address last month, President Ramaphosa, I listened to him carefully, Alex. He continued to say that we are going to push ahead with race-based policies. He even proposed what they call a transformation fund, where millions and millions will be put in, by the government. And guess what will that be? It will be for financing of what? Of Black entrepreneurs. That's what they're saying. In other words, the government is going to choose to pick which Black entrepreneurs these millions will be spent on. Do you think that will be efficient? So, I mean, the politicians, especially those on them, and in large part, the politicians, they've been quite saying they will persist on their race-based policies. And from their supporters have been saying, we will not be told by Mr. Trump. Now, one thing I need to mention here, Alex, it's very important that there are in my observation, there are very few voices like me who are saying, look, Mr. Trump, Elon Musk, they do have a point. We have been criticizing these policies for about a decade now, since I came out of university, right? I've been critical that we no longer need race-based policies in South Africa. 30 years into our democracy. So there are few voices like mine, right? Most voices in the mainstream media, in the politics, the dominant voices are those who are saying, we need to push ahead with this Black economic empowerment that has in fact benefited only the Black elite who are largely connected, who have good connections with the ruling party, the African National Congress.
Wow. And where do you see all this going? I mean, is the South African government going to change tack, or is this just going to double down and be mad at Donald Trump and let the chips fall where they may?
You see, the thing is, there's also one thing to mention here, Alex, that you and I never spoke of. There's also the ICJ case where South Africa has accused Israel of genocide at the International Court of Justice. I think that is also in the picture to Mr. Trump, because Israel is a very big ally of the US as well. So that is in the picture. Yeah. How do I see this going? So there will be levels here, Alex, and I've been telling people that what Mr. Trump has done, it was just the start. He just gave a warning with those executive orders. There's more that's coming. Remember, we have AGOA, right, Alex, and we are part of that. It's a program by the US that allows for us, that allows it to be easy for African countries to sell goods to America, right? So that's the AGOA program. There is also, what else? There could be sanctions that could come through sometime later in the year. Mr. Trump could target, I doubt he's going to target the country, but he could target the ANC leaders, right? And I think Ramaphosa, our president, has said, because I definitely can feel the pressure, he has said that he's willing to negotiate with the Trump administration for a new trade deal. And he's willing to go through the process. But guess what, Alex? The Trump administration has shut the door for now. They don't want to talk to Ramaphosa's administration, because I guess it's because they have said they are still investigating. So my point, Alex, is that this was just the start. There's more that could come. It's a matter of negotiations, and we shall see how it goes.
Excellent. And Phumlani, where can people learn more? You got a website, phumlanimajozi.com. I know you're on social media as well. What's the best way for people to follow your work?
I think it's best to check my X account, what used to be called Twitter. It's at Phumlani Majozi. So you'll find me there. That's where I put in my commentary. I also do have my website, phumlanimajozi.com. That's my website. You can also check me on Facebook as well, Phumlani Majozi. That's my Facebook page. I think those would work. Yeah.
Excellent. Phumlani Majozi, thank you very much for joining us today and breaking down what's going on with the U.S. and South Africa. We really appreciate it, and I hope we can talk to you again very soon.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alex. Great to talk to you.
Thank you so much. All right, folks, stay with us. We're going to be right back in just a moment with Maxime Bernier. He's the founder of the People's Party of Canada, which is doing some incredible things to make the upcoming election in Canada a little bit more interesting. So stay tuned. We're going to be right back after this quick break.
In 1776, a nation was born, forged in the crucible of revolution. Brave men and women stood together fighting for freedom, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. Introducing Patriot Mobile, the wireless carrier that stands with you. We are committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile. For free activation, use promo code Newman.
Welcome back to the Sentinel Report. Alex Newman, your host here. Thanks so much for staying with us over the break, folks. Turning again to international affairs, a little bit closer to home this time. Our friends to the north, the good old Canadians. They are having some really, really significant political changes happening as we speak, like a new prime minister. Justin Trudeau is officially out. And Maxime Bernier, I've heard him called kind of like the wild card in the political process. He's kind of a populist up there. Some people have even compared him to Donald Trump, although I think there's some distinctions on policies. But he's the founder of the People's Party of Canada. He's known for his frankness and his authenticity. He's been in government. He's served as a member of parliament. He actually served as a Minister of Foreign Affairs over a decade ago. He served in cabinets before. Maxime, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for joining us today. I want to start with the news about your prime minister. I guess Justin Trudeau is out, in with the new. What's going on for Americans who don't follow this as closely as they should?
Yes, Justin Trudeau is out. It is a good news for you Americans, but it is a very good news for us Canadians. And now you have Mark Carney. He is the new leader of the Liberal Party of Canada, and he is our new prime minister. We are supposed to have an election as soon as maybe next week or earlier than that. And Carney is a globalist. He believes in climate change. And he was the one who was pushing that agenda with the UN. He was a former governor of the Bank of Canada. He believes in a spending that you can spend your way out to prosperity. And so for me, between Carney and Trudeau, that will be the kind of the same policies. There's nothing new there. Big deficit. That's what he said. He's ready to stimulate the economy. For me, that will be a sedative for the economy. And, he wants to have a mandate, and that's why we will be in election soon to face Donald Trump. And for him, imposing tariffs on Canadians, it's okay. I'm the only leader of a national party here in Canada who doesn't want a trade war with the US. I understand that President Trump imposed the 25% tariff, but it won't be the Canadians who will pay for that. It's the American consumers and American businesses. And so now our country imposed 25% tariffs on all the goods coming from the US. That will bring inflation here in Canada, and actually that will hurt our economy. We are 10 times smaller than you guys in the US. So the rational thing to do is not to impose any tariff and to go ahead with President Trump to reopen the free trade agreement that we have with you for a couple of years right now and put everything on the table to be sure to have a good deal with you guys.
That's a fascinating take, Maxime. And I know there's a lot of talk up there about, well, if Trump does tariffs, we're just going to reimpose tariffs here on American goods. And of course, as you said, that would be pretty painful, I think, for Canadian consumers who get a lot of goods and services from the United States. I want to ask you about your party because, you know, typically you spend kind of conservatives, liberals, and you were part of the Conservative Party. In fact, in 2016, you were in the leadership race to succeed Stephen Harper at the helm of the the Conservative Party of Canada, and you lost by about 1% in some kind of dubious circumstances. And you decided then it was time to start your own party. Talk a little bit about kind of where the Conservative Party's at today, and what you bring to the table that's so different. I understand in the upcoming elections you're expected to at least get a few seats in Parliament, maybe even become a kingmaker. But talk to us about the distinction there between the People's Party and the Conservative Party.
Yeah, the big distinction is, you know, everything that is happening right now in our country with mass immigration. We want to have a pause on immigration. We want to have a moratorium on immigration. With Trudeau and Carney and Poilievre, they all agree to have more foreigners coming to our country. They don't want to deport the illegals that we have in our country. It's between, 50,000 to 500,000 of illegals right now in our country. And this year, foreigners who had temporary foreign worker permits, that will end this year. That may be another 1 million. So the big difference with us is we are putting our country first. We want to help Canadians first. Contrary to the Conservative, we will have that moratorium on immigration. Same thing on climate change. Poilievre believes in climate change and he will impose more regulations on businesses. We will withdraw from the Paris Accord like President Trump. The DEI policies, we are against that, for a long time. We want to be sure that we won't promote that here in our country. Poilievre is not speaking about that. Poilievre is the leader of the Conservative Party. So there's a lot of differences with us. We want to balance the budget in 1 year to cut, foreign aid, $8 billion. We want to cut corporate welfare, subsidies to businesses, $10 billion that we can save over there. For Poilievre is okay with deficit. So there's a huge difference. And that's why I left the Conservative Party a couple of years ago, because that party was conservative in name only. And it is the case today also.
Yeah, it sounds so much like what we've seen in American politics, where the Republicans gradually move more and more over to the Democrat position, at least until Donald Trump came along and kind of broke the mold there. I want to turn to the U.S.-Canada relationship. Obviously, it's very close historically. I mean, you guys are neighbors, friends. I mean, we've been very, very friendly for almost our entire history. What do you see as the proper relationship between the United States and Canada? Of course, you got Trump talking about this 51st state thing. I understand, not very popular in Canada. What do you think should be the appropriate relationship, Maxime?
Yeah, Trump has a point when he's saying that we don't invest in our own defense. First, we must do that is if we are an independent country, at least we must be able to defend ourselves. And we are not right now. So we need to at least invest 2% in our 2% of our GDP in our national defense. That's important. We must secure our borders. Trump has a point there. We are a threat for the national security of Americans, but also our own national security. That's why secure the border, reinvest in our defense, being sure to deport our illegals. That will be important because if we are an independent country, we need to protect the North also, reinvest to be sure that we will protect the North. So there's a lot of things that we can do to have good relationship with President Trump and the US. But this country is a sovereign country. And when President Trump is speaking about the 51st state, for me, it won't happen. We are independent, but we need also to show to other countries and the US that we will do the right thing to protect ourselves and America at the same time.
Yeah, and on that subject, Maxime, I've heard a lot of concerns, not just from the United States, by the way, but even from friends up in Canada about some of the dangers that have been growing in Canada, kind of unchecked. The proliferation of agents for the Chinese Communist Party, the drug manufacturing, the Islamist extremism, and we have a pretty open border, U.S. and Canada. And so there's a lot of national security concerns growing as well. How do you think Canada should be responding to those?
Oh, we should take that seriously, and I don't think that we are right now. There's a Chinese police station in Montreal and in Toronto that is illegal. That is on against the international law. That is against our constitution. I know that our police, the RCMP, said that they are investigating that, but I don't know. Nothing happened, so we need to put our resources there to be sure that we won't have any influence, but also not only from the Chinese Communist Party, but also we have in Parliament our secret services told us that we have some members of Parliament who are not loyal to our country. They're loyal to their country of origin, like China. We need to know who they are. We need to take that seriously. But in Parliament right now, they don't want to have a discussion about that.
Wow, that's amazing. Absolutely amazing, Maxime. I sometimes feel bad about what's been happening in my country all these years, but then I see Canada and I think that could always be worse. Well, I really appreciate you coming on, Maxime. I know you have a big election you're preparing for right now. We do have some viewers up in Canada, and of course, a lot of our viewers and listeners do have friends and family up in Canada. How do people learn more about you? Obviously, People's Party of Canada.ca. Are you on any of the social media? How can people learn about you and get involved?
Yeah, they can follow me, Maxime Bernier, on the X, Twitter, on social media, People's Party of Canada.ca. This is our platform. So, if they want to be in touch with us, that's great. And for this election, I can feel the change in Canada, like in US, like in Europe, in France, in Germany, in UK. These populist political party are growing, and we are the only populist free markets, pro-Canada political party in Canada, and I can tell you that I feel that we are growing and we are in it to win it for the next election.
Excellent. Well, we wish you well, sir. Merci beaucoup, Maxime Bernier. Thank you very much for what you're doing. We look forward to your electoral success, and I hope we can talk to you again very soon.
Perfect. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much. All righty, folks. That is all we have time for today. If you're in Canada, if you got friends or family in Canada, definitely let them know about Maxime and the People's Party of Canada. There's so much that could be said. I think Maxime really hit a lot of the key points. But, the Canadians are dealing with a lot of the same issues that we're dealing with here in America. I mean, they're a little further down that road, but, there's a lot of the same problems. And as our neighbors to the north, we want to make sure that they stay strong, that they stay free. So if you have people up in Canada, definitely send them this interview to them. Go check out the website, peoplespartyofcanada.ca. Also, get over to our website, libertysentinel.org. I want to thank you so much again for tuning in. Thank you for all that you do for God and for country. We appreciate you more than you know, and God willing, we shall be with you again next week. Until then, thanks for watching, and God bless you all.